Hey, welcome in. I'm Rita, and this is The Story I'm Telling Myself, a podcast about uncovering the beliefs that hold us back and rewriting them with truth, courage, and clarity. If you've ever felt like you're standing in your own way, you are not alone. Let's get into it. Congratulations, friends. You have made it to Thursday. The week is almost over. Thank you for being here to participate in the Story I'm Telling Myself podcast. You know, this is a show for all of us. You are important. So please come in the comments, say hello, greet our guest, Jenn. Let us know that you are there. And to know, like throughout the show, we would love to hear your questions and comments as we talk today. But Jenn Whitmer, welcome to the Story I'm Telling Myself podcast. So glad you are here.
Oh, thanks. I'm so excited to talk to you, Rita. I really am.
Yay. Two people that are all about bringing more positivity and joy to the world just should always be in a room together. Like, we're just going to agree on that. So Jenn, I'm going to let you give your little intro here. Tell everybody who you are.
Okay. Well, hi, I'm Jenn, and I am really helping people create positive culture by dealing with all those complex people that you work with, including yourself. And so I work as a speaker and a consultant, and I like to say all around joy bringer. And I actually grew up in the world of education. So I was an educator for a while and for about 20 years and a school leader, and then moved into this work. Mostly because I got fired, which we could talk about at some point, and which was a great thing in the end. And so now I am also finishing up a book. So I guess I need to add author to my list of things that I do. I'm so excited. Hello, Jerry. Hello, Mark. And I am married to my high school sweetheart, and we have 4 kids who are now, one just graduated from college, 2 are in college, and 1 is in high school. And yeah, live in St. Louis, Missouri. My intern, the cat, is off at the vet today, actually. So he's not going to participate. Oftentimes he likes to be a part of the meeting, but contribute nothing. So that's who I am.
Sounds like he would get along well in a lot of workplaces. JennWhitmer.com. That's how you're going to find everything you need to know about Jenn, who, like me, has a musical soundtrack going in her head all the time.
All the time.
There's always a soundtrack to every part of our lives. So Jerry and Mark, thanks for joining us today and for saying hello in the comments. We are so happy to have you with us. Jenn, you're going to share a really interesting internal narrative that lives within so many of us, which is about the importance of following the rules, and that being a good rule follower, being an obedient person is actually sort of going to allow life to take care of itself. But this may not actually be a reliable narrative to listen to, and you're going to tell us why. So with that small setup, jump in and share with us the story that you were telling yourself.
Yes. I, first of all, love the name of your podcast because I say this phrase all the time. My kids no longer totally roll their eyes at the story I'm telling myself, but they have embraced it. Well, not embraced. They're willing. So discovering this particular story was really an uncovering that I didn't know was totally there. And then the story I'm telling myself is I do all the right things and it still doesn't work. That's what I just kept discovering. So the flip side of that story is it should be working. You know, like I never went into the depth of that part, but like if I follow all the rules or I do the right thing, then life will work out. But I do it and it doesn't work. I see all these other people who are doing the right thing and it's working for them, but it's not working for me. And the irony.
Let's pause a moment, Jenn, because look, one of the things that I see about social media that makes this a trap that so many of us fall into is there's all kinds of adversarials and stuff. It doesn't matter if you're on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever, that's like, I have the solution for, I have the playbook for, I will tell you the 5 secret things that you need to do that are going to get you from X to Y. Right. And they are everywhere. So there is all of this communication existing in our world that says there is the secret playbook that you can just follow and you will get the result.
Right.
And when you don't, what happens? What was the story you were telling yourself because you weren't? Yeah.
Yeah. What's wrong with me is then the next logical thing, because we're logical people. And so if then, well, then, you know, like we took logic, that's the next step. If I do all the right things and it doesn't work, part of the formula is wrong and it must be me. And so and it was an old story. When I have a keynote that is called Rewrite the Soundtrack. And I talk about in that keynote, we have old stories, like a forest of old stories that exist in our brains all the time, because we're narrative creatures wired to tell ourselves and about stories about ourselves and stories about other people and about the world. That's how we make sense. And this story surfaced in a lot of different ways. The moment that I think it really started to change was not actually that long ago. It was about 3 or 4 years ago. And I've never told this story publicly, really, and I'm kind of nervous about it. So I was finally just frustrated with the way I felt in my body. And I had been an athlete my whole life, but I had also always been overweight. And I had done all the right things. I mean, I was never on I wouldn't refuse to do the crazy things, like only eat 500 calories and get a random shot. And I'm not doing that. But like anything that was healthy, anything that I have done all the right things. And in fact, at one point went to a doctor with 2 or 3 years worth of workout and food diary data to say, okay, why isn't this working? And that doctor responded with, well, do you want surgery? And I was like, what? And so I just left, like I didn't do anything about it. And it just got into a point where I'm like, I don't feel like me. I don't feel comfortable. I'm doing all the right things and it's not changing. And so I felt okay in some ways because I'm eating healthily and moving my body, but I didn't feel like my insides matched my outsides. And so I finally decided I need to figure out what this is about. And so I actually at the time was seeing a therapist, and I was like, I want to talk about this because I don't know where this is. And that's where we really discovered how this story was impacting me and the way I was approaching my health. And so because I'll do all the right things and it doesn't work anyway. It doesn't matter that I'm eating within the right quote unquote calorie restrictions. It doesn't matter that I'm counting the macros. It doesn't matter that I am lifting weights and doing cardio and getting rest and sleeping and like, you name it, it was happening. And so as we started digging into this story, I also started to see how it was connecting to other places in my life. And it was really impacting my business. That, well, if I'm doing all the right things and it's not working out, which instead of a place of service, a place of I can help you, it was a place of desperation. And that energy goes out with you. I really believe that. And so starting to see how this particular story was going all over. And one session we were in, and she's got this fuzzy pillow that I love. And so I had this fuzzy pillow in my lap, and she was like, well, what would you do if it could work out? Like if you tried something different, not that I do everything right and it all works out, but maybe what they said was right doesn't work for you. And I was like, oh, well, what would I do? Well, I don't know what works for me. So maybe I should go talk to a different doctor, not someone that was like, so which started me on.
Hey, girl, at least you didn't get the calories in, calories out response. I mean, I don't know that surgery's better, but I think, a lot of women and 40 and above who are hitting this transition in their bodies, this is what you hear over and over and over again, that all their doctor does is look at them and give them a pamphlet on that the difference between calorie intake and exercise,
Well, she
expenditure.
couldn't, because I'd just given her 3 years of data to demonstrate that wasn't happening. And, so she couldn't use that excuse. But so just that one shift of I do everything right and it doesn't work out, to, well, what if I haven't found what is right for me? Which I had a hard time with for like some selfish reasons and some old stories about obedience. And if I play by the rules, and the irony of that is I'm not a rule follower. Like, I'm totally willing to do something that isn't according to the quote unquote like posted rules. But if it's something that I didn't know how to do, like the coach, that says, well, if you take these 5 steps, then you will do this for your clients and have this kind of business. That's the kind of thing. Well, I don't know. So I guess, but it's not working. And I saw it in all these different places. And so once you see the story that you're telling yourself, and if you're listening and you're like, I'm kind of wondering, do you ever see this story? That if I obey, it's going to work. And life just isn't that formulaic. We are too complex. The world is too complex for it to be that formulaic. And while there are
and can we pause for a minute and also say here, you were talking about the trees, the deep-seated stories.
Mm-hmm.
One of the deep-seated stories almost all of us carry around because we went through grade school to high school is a story of obedience.
Totally.
Like following the rules, being obedient, doing the right things. That is the only path that gets you to the right outcome. So you are deeply conditioned to believe that just being the good student who checks all the boxes is all that is required of you.
Yeah.
Because at school, they didn't always want you to be an independent thinker, right? They wanted your creativity in only certain places. And we do this to people in the workplace too.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And people fall into that because they're trained that from a very young age. So if you're listening to this and you're going, I don't know, I mean, really, you might have to really pause and think about it, because this could be so deeply rooted in you that you are not conscious at all.
It's invisible. Yeah. It's living in your unconscious. Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. We do it over and over and over again. It will direct your life until you make it conscious. So it takes a little digging. And sometimes it appears like this at the office. Well, my boss said it, so I have to do it. Like, I don't get to choose for myself what my work priorities are, or go to my leader and say, you gave me this priority. I thought this was my priority. Help me figure out which one you would like is better for our team. Like, that's a very different conversation than, well, I guess I have to stay up until midnight tonight finishing it because my boss said it, or this, like we do. That's how it shows up at work, I think. Or everybody else is going to the happy hour, and so I have to go to the happy hour. Now, I will be the person at the happy hour because I love it, but some people don't. And there's like these unwritten rules at work. We call that implicit culture. Like, we don't say the rules and they're there, but because of this story, I have to obey. So, or if I obey, it will work for me. We don't pay attention to that. We're also following the unwritten rules that are really unhelpful. So I'm really curious, if you're listening, if that has ever happened, if like you see that story for yourself in some way, shape, or form. And I had an extra layer, and I think a lot of people do growing up in, I grew up in a fairly conservative, high control religious culture as well, that I still like appreciate for so many things. And still, for me as a believer and what I would call a Jesus follower, showed me some great things. But the world in religion is also not formulaic as much as we try to make it. So I think the stories exist in all kinds of places where we say, if I can just check the box, then I'm safe. If I just check the box, then I'll belong. Or if I just check the box, then they have to love me. Those are the things that come up with that obedience story. If I just do this, then I will get the thing that I want. And life is too complex for that.
So I'm curious to know, you had this epiphany, and good on you, because you were working on yourself in therapy. And that's the other thing. I know therapy is a privilege. Many people can't afford to pay for therapeutic intervention.
Mhm.
Healthcare plans someday might get smart enough to see this as whole well-being.
Yes.
But even even if you don't have a therapist and you start to dig into these things, many of us, you can find a friend or somebody you can start to talk
Totally.
to uncover this. So you have this epiphany
Yeah.
that it might just not be enough for you or the right thing for you.
Mhm.
What was the first place where you gave yourself permission to start to move beyond the boundaries of just following that script? And why do you think it was that thing?
Yeah. So like Jerry's saying, in her early career, total rule follower. Yeah, so many of us are. And I was still, this was in this way of, well, the person in authority said it. So if I go back, then I'm the problem child, which is another one of my stories. I'm the problem because I am an asker. I have a question, and people in authority don't always like that. So another story that mixed in with that. So I think the moment of like, oh, if I haven't found what works for me, I need to find a different partner rather than a different expert. Like I need to find a different partner, even though I wanted expertise. The expert wasn't quite the right thing that I needed to think about this person because of that second part of the story that, well, the expert already told me this isn't going to work. So I can't go back because then it'll be a problem. But if I tell myself the story, okay, what if this person is a partner and we are going to approach it with curiosity, which is what I do with my own coaching clients. Like, why would I not do this for my own health? And so, my therapist suggested I go back to my OB because I just found a new OB because mine had retired after having all of my babies. Because like I said, I had a lot. And I approached it with, if I see her as a partner, what would I do? Well, I would say, can I share all the context with you before you respond? So it was a little bit of feed forward. It was a little bit of asking for what I needed in that appointment to say, here are the things that I've done. Here's my history, like in Hamilton of, like here's 30 years of disagreements, like here's all of the things that have happened since I was 12 years old. And without going into all of that, friends, I'm not going to do that to you. But what she did is she was like, she listened. And I think some of that was just because I had chosen a good partner, but also because I saw her as a partner and saw her as, can I do this? Like the feed forward of asking for what I needed. And
So I gotta interrupt you again,
totally.
because this is so interesting that the permission was really around how you chose to relate to the person,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So instead of having them on a pedestal,
Mm.
you said, I get to be on par. I get to be a collaborator
Correct.
in this.
Mhm.
And that is again, that gets to some deeply seated stuff in us. I'd like to use a
Right?
word different than stuff, but we're going to stay PG-13. I mean, this whole idea of not subjugating. Now, I think that looking at our children, Jen, I don't know if you would agree. I know we have children that are similarly aged. The younger people today are not as inculcated with these messaging that we had about giving a different level of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well,
Treating our
different.
elders. Yeah.
Yeah,
There we
different.
go.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were taught deference. We were
Mhm.
taught that it's important to show deference to certain people in
Which
authority.
means to defer. Like, I am not gonna take what I think is valid or accurate. I'm gonna defer to you. It's a very different posture than like what Ruth is saying. partners. We're here together, working together. We have different expertise. We have different roles. We have different levels of authority, but we're still partners in what we're doing.
Yeah, welcome, Ruth. I'm glad you're with us. Ruth is a follower of the show. She's frequently with us. So I just had to call that out because I don't know about the other listeners, but that wasn't exactly where I thought your story would go to. But it's interesting that what was really the biggest permission was changing how you elevated yourself.
Yeah, which is the irony of all of this is that because of my tends to ask the questions of culture, like be the person that can be the problem of like pointing out the things that people are trying to hide under the rug. I have, in technical culture terms, what is called low power distance. And low power, hi Darius. Low power distance means that I see us more as equals, whereas high power distance means, there is a very structured hierarchical way of approaching life. And so in general, my natural posture is a low power low. So I almost like had to realize that I was not living the way that I really genuinely see the world most of the time in this area. And it was starting to impact other areas. And that permission to say, oh, I can be a partner with you and advocate for my own. Nobody else is in my body. Nobody else is understanding this. Nobody else knows all the context until I tell you. I get to be a partner with you because this is my part of the role. I didn't go to medical school. I'm not keeping up on the latest stuff. I don't know what's, and so that change started a train of very different results. And one of the things that I come back to is that same idea that I said about Carl Jung, that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you call it fate. Because my conscious thought was I have low power distance. But this story meant that I didn't. And I was like, if I just do what you say, then it's going to work out, which actually not only de-elevates, we'll say that's a word, de-elevates myself. It also abdicates me of being a responsible person for myself.
Okay, you got to say that again. Because that is
so that's
something everybody needs to walk away with.
Yeah, it's not just that you are lowering yourself in either true or false humility. It doesn't matter either one. It's actually you're abdicating your own responsibility to be the most active agent in your own life. And that's the thing that when I realized that part was huge. Like, oh, I'm actually saying it can't be my fault then. And I don't have to be responsible. Even though I was still doing the actions, my posture wasn't, I have agency in this place. And when you devalue yourself, you're also giving up your own agency, and that will devastate you. So in this conversation, I mean, I had a great partner, I have to admit. And we had already determined if it doesn't work, then we'll come back and we'll try something else. So like we'd already decided, we being my therapist and me, I'd already decided if this doesn't work, if these options don't get a result of feeling like a partner, then we'll try a new person. But she did. She was wonderful. Turns out I have not one, but 3 medical conditions that impact that. And some of it is medication. Some of it was a tiny switch. Some of it is a condition that you live with. But all of that then led to all of the things that I'd always been doing already started to quote unquote work. So it's not that it wasn't working. I didn't find the right thing that worked for me was actually true, because my body wasn't going to respond to whatever it was, because I had some things impacting the way my body metabolizes everything, and without getting into all of it. And so because of that, on this very slow journey, I now feel like, okay, I'm not crazy that it wasn't working. First of all, I was like, okay, I feel validated. But now I feel like my insides match my outsides. And it started to apply itself in my business. So rather than, oh my gosh, this, like, if I just check the boxes, you're going to sign me as a speaker. Or if I just check the boxes, then you're going to hire me as a coach, or you'll buy my book or whatever. But now I see you as a partner. I'm serving you. You have something to bring in. I am helping you solve your problem of culture and joy at work and being a healthy leader. It's a very different posture as a business person as well. And so the stories that we tell ourselves aren't typically isolated to one place. They start to impact everything else.
Wow, and you are so right, and it is a completely different posture, and I think that so many entrepreneurs fall into that trap. Again, we in the social media, we sell this storyline that there is a shortcut, that you can
Yes.
buy the fast pass, right, and cut the line and get on the ride to $1 million
I mean, I love my
faster
Disney
than anybody else.
pass. I mean, I love it, but life is not that.
But people, there's just so much messaging around that. And then people feel so frustrated because they think, because they check the boxes, right? That the fast and they use the fast pass, that they're going to end up at the $1 million. And they go for a ride, but it's not $1 million ride.
Yeah.
And they're very disappointed. And then in so many cases, they get self-blame.
Yes.
And they get external blame, you know, that they're blamed for not doing this. And so so you're right. I mean, it shame is such a powerful emotion.
Totally.
And when you have, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but when you said your insides don't match your outsides, I mean, that is often accompanies this shame narrative for people. That's a, you know, it's deep. And again, deep inside of us, there's a certain shame that we are carrying, and it's very powerful, and it's very destructive.
Yeah.
To our thinking in a lot of areas of life.
Totally. The shame comes in. And then for me, I think mine, other people I've talked to have had similar experiences. Sometimes they lean more toward shame. I lean more toward like the fear and isolation of it. Like if I can't be aligned, how am I just wanted to isolate, which separates me from other people in a business where my main value is connection. Well, that's not going to work. And they commingle, you know, like shame, isolation, control, all of that commingles together. And the switch, I hope if you're listening that you're really hearing, is not control. It's not the control of the outcomes, which is what the obey story is. That's about control. But it is about agency and responsibility. And that, I can be 100% responsible for my life. Nobody can control any of the outcomes, but I can be responsible for me. And that agency, as I'm finishing up my book, and the research around agency in decision making, is if you feel you have a choice, you are better for it. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. If you feel like you have agency, if you feel like you have a choice, you are better for it. And that's the change in this story, that I got to be 100% responsible for my life and choose how I wanted to do it.
And that is a big takeaway that we are hoping to leave with people today. That you know, I keep coming back to early sayings that got embedded in me from mentors of mine that had a huge impact on my growth and development as a professional. And one of those sayings is, when you choose safety and security, which obedience, following the rules, checking the boxes, that's safety and security, you give up your power. Power is agency, right? Power, it's saying, you know, that saying, it means that, you know, instead of you taking 100% responsibility for your life, you are, again, giving away part of that responsibility to some other rule entity, security entity that you're choosing to lean into. But it's a trade-off, and that is something nobody tells you. Nobody will. We are honestly telling you that right now.
We would like for you to learn this lesson.
Yes, but so many people won't tell you this.
Yeah.
It's something that you live your way into discovering so many times. And I felt it was so, I think I was in my early 30s when that was shared with me at a leadership development program that I was at with Peter Block, and it was game changing.
Mm.
It was 100% game changing to realize that I was choosing these internal security narratives, and that they were holding me back.
Mm-hmm. Totally. We don't notice it. Oh, hey, Gary. Hi, Olga. She lives in my town.
Yay. Hello, Olga.
I read this story by Stacey Abrams when she was in Congress. And she tells this story about the rule of deflecting for women in particular. Oh, anybody could do this. It wasn't just me, although I am huge about honoring your team. But she just kept deflecting, and she had a mentor pull her aside and say, stop it. Stop doing that. When you tell that story, they are going to just continue to not ask you to do things. But if they actually think you know what you're talking about, they'll come to you for advice, which then gives you more power and leverage to help your constituents, to help your people. So stop doing that. And it was this big shift for her. And the reason I'm telling you that story is because somebody else had to tell her that. And so I'm hoping you're hearing this from us as you're listening, that, oh, maybe I've got this story that is, if I just check the boxes, if I just follow the rules, then I can control the outcomes, or somebody else will make it work for me. Either one of those outcomes. But really it is, I get to choose to have 100% responsibility. And if I'm going to be 100% responsible for my life, what's the choice I'm going to make? That's that story shift.
And even if you're following the recipe, right? Even if you're following the recipe, it's what you said. But I still have 100% responsibility for the outcome. So if I'm following the recipe and I'm not getting what I want, I don't have to be the victim in the story. I can still use my agency to write a new ending.
Absolutely. I mean, as a baker, I love to bake. I make amazing chocolate chip cookies. But there are times, or biscuits, like the weather impacts that. I followed the recipe and it didn't work, but it wasn't because I'm not capable. I don't have to experience that shame. It's like, okay, well, if I'm 100% responsible, what's happening? What did I need to check? Oh, guess what? I was using a flour that it just said flour, but this flour is different and it makes a different kind of biscuit. Or I use salted butter instead of unsalted butter. Like the recipes aren't always crystal clear for the way we live life. And so it also is like, oh, I can make the change. There's the power of agency to make change.
100%. Jenn, this has just been such an incredibly powerful conversation. I love having you as a guest of the show. As we're getting ready to wrap up here, are there any final thoughts? I can't think of a thing you haven't said, but you might have something else in your head. Or maybe there's just one more song. Maybe there's a song in your head.
Oh my gosh.
that goes with this lesson, because, songs, they're earworms.
Yes, they are. So without ruining it, I do a special thing when I do this keynote on rewriting the story, but to leave you all with a song, because the story you tell yourself is your reality. And so my favorite line from Into the Woods, which is one of my favorite musicals by Stephen Sondheim, the witch says at the end, and she says, "Be careful the tales you tell, that is the spell." So that's what I want you to remember, that be careful the tales you tell. That is the spell. And you have the agency to change those stories. You can change those stories and then change what becomes your spell.
I love it. That's amazing. So good. I have nothing to add to that other than I got to do the preview for upcoming shows. Jenn Whitmer, everybody. I know you're given the big round of applause because she's just incredible.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. Connect with me. I'd love to see you on LinkedIn, Instagram, all the places.
Oh yeah, let me drop that in right now for everybody. So here is Jenn's LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. I always say LinkedIn is business up front and Instagram is party on the back. So come find
me. You just look her up, Jenn Whitmer. You'll find her on Instagram too, no problem. Okay, so we have a special Sunday episode coming up this week. And it is a friend of mine, Liz DeHart, whose company was just bought out. And she found herself not getting to move forward in the buyout and lost her position. And she's going to come share her story about why she is not a victim and why she is celebrating this move, even though it is creating this moment of loss for her. That is Sunday at 2:30 Eastern time. Sorry, Gary, it's going to be kind of late for you. Maybe we can be the bedtime story for you. And then on Monday, the 28th, I have Ellen at oh no, I'm sorry, that is not the right one. I'm sorry, it's on Wednesday the 30th at 5 p.m., just in time for the evening commute. Suze is joining me. She is all about navigating transitions, and we're going to talk about all of those internal narrations that happen when you are in the middle of a transition and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I don't think this is what I wanted. Do I really want to do this? And you're questioning your transition and your destiny, because every change is messy in the middle. So we're going to talk about that next week. So episodes still coming up. We still have more lives coming for all the way through the month of May. Thanks for being with us today. Please reach out, connect with Jenn.
Follow Rita. She's a wonderful follow on LinkedIn. Please do.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And it is Thursday. If you're a podcast listener, and we have Wet Your Palate today, and you can go over and find The Story I'm Telling Myself on all podcast platforms. We have the 4th episode. So episodes 1 through 4 are now live on all audio podcasting platforms. So you can find us and catch up on some of the episodes that you missed. I can tell you that all my guests are just like you, Jenn. They're these people that I aspire to be more like.
I have loved listening to the podcasts. They've been so good.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Oh, great, Darius. Oh, yes. And if you love it, make sure you leave that 5-star rating. Help us get more traction. All right, everybody. We're going to close the show for today. I'll see you back here on Sunday at 2:30. Thank you again, Jenn. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on The Story I'm Telling Myself. If you loved this episode, would you do us a big favor to help us reach a bigger audience? Simply subscribe to The Story I'm Telling Myself podcast and rate this episode and share it with a friend. Thank you for listening.